Okay, folks, we're going to try this again, starting from the very beginning. So this set of instructions will be the same as the tablet instructions yesterday in terms of getting into the work, but I'm going to use this method to just go through each of the pages and give you some instructions on what to do. So once again, I think I went over this roughly in the first video, but if I've already started working on something, then that'll be under this tab called Your Work, which starts down here, and I can just grab that like so. But if you're just starting out the week, then you're just going to grab whichever PDF it is you want to start working in, and everything that you do in there will be saved. So I'm going to grab this one. I want to edit it, so I'm going to grab my editing pencil. I don't think you're going to be able to read this, but I'll read the warning that's going to come up. It says, create new file. You've edited this before. You can create a new file or go back and select one instead. So that's just warning me that I've already started a work file on this. But for my purposes, I am going to create a new file. If it happens that you've already started one, though, that's a good warning so you don't end up replicating work. So here we go. On the first page, they're asking you to color the answer for the shaded fraction red and the answer for the part that is not shaded blue. So we're going to look at each of these pictures, determine what the fraction is that would name the shaded portion, and then the fraction that would name the not shaded portion. And I've already started scribbling with my marker there. Just delete that. And if I tap on my marker there, I get some options. So I'm going to grab a red to start with and a medium-sized marker tip. So I can look at this first picture and say, all right, well, I see it's chopped into 4 pieces here, so I need a denominator of 4. So straight away, I can say this is not in the consideration because that has a denominator of 2, and we're not talking about halves here. So it's got to be one of these 2 options now, and of course, 1 out of 4 is shaded, or 1/4, or 1/4. So I'm using a circle instead of shading in, as they say, because you notice when I shade in, then I can't see what's underneath it. So that might be helpful. And then I'm just going to grab blue. And of course, there's only one possible answer, and we can verify 3/4 or 3 out of 4 of those squares are not shaded. That's that. Pretty simple. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to use 2 fingers to scroll. Once you're using a marker, 1 finger will draw. Oh, and again, I cannot scroll page by page here, but I can use my page turn button. I'm saying again, but this is probably something that was in the video that got deleted. The second page, you might want to use a virtual die, sort of like we used today on the class chat. And I'll post a link for that. In fact, no, I won't. All you have to do is go search Google virtual dice, and the first thing that comes up, you don't even need to go to a website. You can do it straight from your Google search result. And that's what I was using today. So you can roll. You might want to do this competitively against somebody, or you could, of course, just do it by yourself. If you roll a 1 or a 2, then you color one of the fractions in this column, 3 or a 4, middle column, 5 or a 6, the third column. And you could do it against somebody and take turns rolling and coloring. And when you get down to the last few options, you can see who gets to color more by whatever you roll. Or you can just go through and do it as it is. This one, all you have to do is read the name of the fraction and then highlight it in order to match what it says beneath it. So 1/2, that's quite an easy one that we should be very familiar with. 1/2. We're just going to highlight here. However you want to highlight, you can color it all the way in there. Just circle it. There's 1/2. 2/4, also just going to count the fourths, and I'm going to select 2 of them. Doesn't matter if you want to select 2 that are beside one another, or you could also go opposite. In any case, you've still selected 2/4. So this is just read and color. The following page is actually the same activity. The main difference to notice is that this one, they've got you doing it on pi type fractions, and these are what I usually refer to as chocolate bars, because that's how I like to think of them. So again, just going to read what's underneath. 4/8. This fraction is divided into 8s, and we're going to highlight 4 of them. Let's go for the middle 4. Very nice. For this page, if you're deciding to do the work online or on a device like so, then obviously cutting and pasting is not an option. But you can just use these marker tools to work around. So if you're printing and cutting, you're just going to cut these from the bottom and match them to the fractions on the page. But if you aren't, then you can just go one by one. So the first one we see is 1/2. That's a classic fraction. And it's very easy to identify where the 1/2 is, so you can literally just take your marker, draw it in there, and if you want to make it a little easier on yourself, you can always X out the ones you've already done so you know which options you're still working with. This is pretty much the same activity again, just using the square fractions this time. And again, we're just looking for the same thing. So you might want to choose this one and go down the list and figure out which one matches to it, or you can choose one here and decide which fraction here matches to it. So let's take this top example, 2 out of 2, or 2/2. So I see halves here, but that's only 1/2. Down here, I have 2/2. So again, I can just do the same thing. I'm going to zoom in a little. 2 out of 2. Cross out the 2/2 and carry on. This next page, they're actually having you, rather than simply identifying, they want you to divide them yourself. This can be a little bit tricky, so just do your best. Don't be upset if they're not perfect. You'll see me do some not perfect ones right now. So divide into 2 equal parts. Color 1/2 red. And I think you can get more color options here too if you go the up arrow. Yeah, we got a bunch. So if you want to get more creative with your colors here, of course you can use the colors they want. If you want to use your own colors too, I think that's okay. A whole bunch of different ways that we can cut this in half. So top to bottom, side to side, or like some people prefer their sandwiches, triangles. And of course that cuts both ways. Color 1/2 red. Here we go. Again, you can color it all the way, and if you want, you can just shade it. Be as wacky as you like. Okay. Let me just look here. So this one also is an example where we can choose a few different ways we want to cut it apart. So cut into 4 equal parts. I can, of course, cut in half and then in half. I could go in half and then cut each of those pieces in half this way. Let's try that again. And I could go in half this way and then cut each of those pieces in half. 1, 2, 3, 4. In every situation, we end up with 4 equal parts. So see if you can find more than one way for any of those other ones.